Okay, gang, here we go. Molecular and covalent bonding. In my personal opinion, this is the easiest of all the ones that we've talked about so far. Alright, here we go. So just remember that, like, we can have two different things. So this would be like what an ionic compound is, right? And this would be our covalent compound. So this guy over here is like NaCl, and this would be water, okay? And just remember that this guy it turns into ions, right? So really, this sodium gave an electron to the chlorine, and so we had Na plus and then Cl minus. Remember, this is a metal with a nonmetal, right? And then covalent compounds are when you have two nonmetals, right? Nonmetal with the nonmetal, and then they're sharing the electrons, so you don't get one that's positive, one that's negative. So you do. I think this is probably the hardest part about when to name a covalent compound is just recognizing when you have a covalent compound. But really, if you're just looking at the periodic table, which you'll always have, like it's really not a big deal. Okay, so when you're naming covalent compounds, you're going to use this prefix chart, and you do have to memorize this, but for the most part, it's pretty easy. Okay, so you're going to use these prefixes in front of the element names. So if there's one of them, you use mon or mono, and if there's two, you use di, three, tri, four is tetra. Okay, so that's one people sometimes forget. Five is penta. 6 is hexa, 7 is hepta, and that's probably the other big one that people forget. And then 8 is octa, 9 is nona, and 10 is deca. Okay, now when you use these, you're going to, they'll always come in sets, right? You'll always have one thing and then the other, right? So like, for example, in water, right, you've got one thing in front and then the other thing. You've got hydrogen and then you've got oxygen. For the first thing, you just write out the element name as usual. So this is just hydrogen. Okay, and then you have to write out how many of them you have. Okay, well we've got two hydrogens, so we know it's got to be dihydrogen. And then for oxygen, for the second of the two nonmetals, you turn it into the ide form. So you write the stem and then write the ide, just like in the ionic naming. But we have to put the prefix, which is mon, M-O-N. And if the stem starts with with a vowel, okay, then you're going to write mon. But if it starts with a consonant, then it's going to be mono. All right. Yeah. If for some reason you have a molecule where the first one is there's only one of them, you don't write mon for that one. Okay. So if you had like what's a good one? So if you had NO, okay, so that's nitrogen and oxygen. So it'd be nitrogen. Remember the first element you just write normal. Now there's only one of them, so you don't write mon in front, okay, or mono in front. You just say nitrogen, and then this would be monoxide again. Oxide. All right. Let's do some examples. So we've got diphosphorus trioxide. Okay. So first recognize what element you're talking about. Well, phosphorus, that's just P. Okay, and it says di, so there's two of them, so P2. And then we have oxide, which is O, and tri tells us that there's three of them. Ta-da! P2O3. That's all that is. Okay, now the next one, iodine, or iodine. Okay, well, it's just I. Notice how there's nothing in front of it. So we know that it has to be, there's just one of them. So it's just I1, but we won't write the one because it's understood. And then fluoride, okay, so it's IF. And then hepta, alright, hepta is 7, so IF7. Okay, now we have to name these other guys, N2H4. Okay, so for the first one, you're just going to write it out as normal, so this is just nitrogen. And then there's two of them, so we're going to say dinitrogen. And then hydride, so this is HDRIDE. Alright, and there's four of them, and I should have given myself a little bit more room. So dinitrogen tetrahydride. Okay. Alright, next one, we got nitrogen, just write it as usual. and there's only one of them, so we're not going to write mon in front. Okay, and then we have triiodide. Now this guy's kind of an interesting case. You can actually write triiodide and have two I's next to each other, which kind of looks kind of cool in my opinion. Or you can kind of merge those I's together, and either of those are acceptable. But anyway, and that's really all there is to writing molecular formulas. It's just using the thing. You write the first one as usual, the second one gets the "ide," and then you put the prefixes in.